What's up, guys? In this video, we're going to discuss why you should never place your personal residence into a land trust. And if you've already made that mistake, I'm going to tell you how to fix it. All right, let's get started. Okay, so here's the deal. I talk to a lot of real estate investors, as you know, all the time when it comes to asset protection planning for their rental real estate. And invariably, it always comes around to a personal residence. What should I do with my personal residence? How do I protect it? Well, I've run into a lot of real estate investors who have told me in the past that they want anonymity for their personal residence, so they'll actually transfer it into a land trust. And so what they'll do is they'll handle their residence just like they do every other investment property that they have. So here's their residence. They'll go out there, they'll create their land trust. And many times, as you know, with a land trust, if you watch my other videos, I talk about how you set it up with anonymity in mind. That means you use a nominee trustee, someone who is not yourself, to be on title. So here's my nominee trustee there. This individual transfers their property into this trust. The individual is the beneficiary of the trust. And so on title, legal title is held in the name of the trustee. So if that trustee's name is Jack, it would be Jack as trustee of the Green Box Trust, GBT Trust. Let's just call it that. That's how title would be held. Now, originally that title was held over here in Susan's name. Now it's titled in Jack's name as the trustee of this Green Box Trust. Susan is the beneficiary of that trust. So the property's inside of there. And as you know, with land trust, or you should know this, in a land trust, the beneficiary has control over the trust, right? The trustee is there for legal title purposes only, but the control rests with the beneficiaries. Hey, it's great. So if I took my personal residence and I don't want it in my name because I don't want my tenants to know where I live, I don't want somebody to obtain a judgment against me, record that judgment in the county where I live and have it stick to my house because my house is in my name, then this is one of the reasons why I recommend people place their personal residence into a certain type of trust that I'm going to tell you about here in just a moment. So we want to get that out so personal judgments don't stick to my house, so I can sell my house, I can refinance my property without having to pay off that personal judgment. So I get the draw to using this strategy. Hey, I use land trust for my rentals. Why don't I just use them for my personal residence as well? Well, here's the problem. And if you've done it, you need to fix it. You see, when you transfer title into a land trust, you're transferring legal title and you're transferring equitable title. Now, what is the difference between these two? Because this is crucial. You see, a land trust vests legal title and equitable title in the trustee. So the trustee is the legal title of owner of that property, and via the trust, they do have some control over the trust property itself. So we're saying, hey, we're going to put this in the trustee's name. We're going to give them equitable title so they can determine how that property is going to be administered. But the trustee turns that right back over to the beneficiary. So in the land trust, the control is actually left with the beneficiaries, but for title holding purposes, legal and equitable titles held by the trustee, because that gives us the ability then when we create this trust to have this beneficial ownership down here that we can assign over to a limited liability company. Now, the reason that works for residential real estate, investment real estate, and not your personal residence is because with the rental property that we place inside of here, we do not have certain state law protection that exists in all 50 states, right? The protection that I'm referring to with your personal residence, as you'll know, is your homestead exemption, right? See, with a rental property, you do not have a homestead exemption, but with your personal residence, you do have a homestead, okay, that you want to protect. Now, some of you are going to say, Clint, your handwriting sucks. I'm writing fast. But anyways, that's homestead. So with my homestead property, in order to maintain your homestead, and depending on your state, this could be anywhere from $50,000 up to an unlimited amount. If you live in Florida or Texas, two of the states that offer an unlimited homestead exemption, what it means is that your personal residence is protected from your personal creditors as long as it is your personal residence. So if you were to set up a trust like this, a land trust, and transfer that property into the land trust because you want anonymity for your property, and you recognize that the homestead is only available as long as that property stays as a home, because once you convert it to cash and you sell, a creditor could go after that cash. So you think, all right, I'm going to do a land trust because it's going to give me anonymity, and if I sell the property, the money rolls into the trust, doesn't come to me personally, so a creditor doesn't find out about it. Hey, yeah, it makes sense from my standpoint to set up my unlimited homestead property even into a trust. Well, the issue comes back to this right here, that when you're thinking about homesteading, transferring your homestead property into a land trust, because you give equitable title up to your trustee, it will invalidate your homestead election. So when we're dealing with personal residence, we do not want to use a land trust. We want to use what is referred to as a residence trust. Okay, I'm going to draw brown blocks here. Now we're going to use a residence trust. Now the residence trust has many similar characteristics to a land trust. So when you create the residence trust, you will still use a nominee trustee up here, right? So we'll still use Jack as our trustee, and Susan will still be the beneficiary of her trust. But here's what's different between a residence trust and a land trust. And you probably wouldn't pick up on this unless you are an engineer and you read every word in that document. We have a few of those that are as clients. So whenever I have a comma that's out of place, they let me know. Or an attorney, right, that pays attention to details. So when you transfer your title of your personal residence into a residence trust, you'll find that it states in the trust document itself that legal title is held with the trustee, but equitable title is held with the beneficiary. And that is required in order to maintain your homestead exemption, because the state law will typically address that you can put your property into a trust provided that the equitable title or equitable interest still rests with the homeowner. So if you've already set up a trust for your personal residence and it's not a residence trust and you used a land trust, here's what you can do. You can restate your trust agreement. We have restated. That is, you just create a new trust. You use the exact same name that you used originally, but you just change the terminology in your trust to make it comply. The reason you want to do this now is because if you're involved in a lawsuit, you're trying to transfer title to the property, or the county assessor asks for a copy of the trust, you never want to turn over a document that somebody will have somewhere in their files that shows that when you transferred property in, the type of trust you transferred it into does not qualify, and you just blew your homestead exemption. So when you're thinking about your personal residence, be sure to use a residence trust, not a land trust, to protect that property. Hey, if you want to learn more about this type of technique and many others, I would love to invite you to my one-day live tax and asset protection event. We hold these on Saturdays. They're a full day event jammed with asset protection. We talk about limited liability companies, corporations, and we use them for showing you how to set up land trusts as well and residence trust for real estate investing. We can show you how to use, we'll show you how to use self-directed IRAs, solo 401ks. We cover a wealth of information from the investing side. And then we step in at the second half of this event and we go into taxes to show you how real estate with entities can put tons of money back in your pocket. It's a fabulous event. We typically get between 800 to 1,000 people every weekend on this event. And the reason they come there is because they know they can get their questions answered, because we bring our team of attorneys and CPAs to the event with us. It's a live event via Zoom. They're on there answering individualized questions from the viewers to make sure that the information they are receiving is not only accurate, but it's also relevant to their individualized situation. If you want to join me on this free event, hey, there is a link in the show notes below. Just click on the link, get registered, join me, and I look forward to seeing you there.